You know, it's great to get a win versus a winning team. That team had been in a bunch of close games and it won a lot of them. And so it's good when you can be in a game against a team that's used to winning in close games and pull it out. So we're thankful for that.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Steelers Roundtable. I'm Missi Matthews. The Steelers beating the Colts on Sunday at Heinz Field to move to 4-4. We have a lot to talk about in terms of the game itself, but also what that means in terms of the AFC playoff implications. Joining me today on our panel, returning once again, former Steelers legend Merril Hoge is here. We're going to send him over to the telestrator in a little bit as well. We also have, for the first time on the Steelers Roundtable, Mike Prisuta. Round of applause for him. And also coming back. It's his first time, as I said.
Nobody's got the stick.
Arthur Moats.
They point the stick at the
former Steelers outside linebacker. Prisuta, it's okay. We're going to help you get through this, all right?
Yeah. A little direction is all,
Just conversation.
Too much to ask?
Cameras are just dropping in.
Just conversation. All right, as I said, before we talk about the game Sunday against the Colts, let's take a look at that AFC playoff picture as we sit here today. I'm sure everybody felt good the Steelers got the win, and then you might have watched Sunday Night Football and you might have thought, all right, it would have been good for the Steelers, guys, if the Patriots won that game. But given the fact that they are 4-4, Merril, the arrow is pointed up, as Coach Tomlin likes to say. There's still a chance.
Well, I would agree with him, and I think when you look at how they won that game, is very important. Now, listen, I know the starting quarterback went out. Hoyer, though, is not some chopped liver who hasn't get a lot of reps. That is a seasoned veteran that they had to play against. So in order for them to win it the way they won it, I just know from a player's perspective the confidence you start feeling. And there's a bunch of teams on that list you just showed that you're going to play. So you have a lot of destiny in your control.
Arthur, in terms of maybe just continuing to stack wins, how much does that help, as Merril is saying?
Man, that helps a ton. When you're talking about a team that has faced a ton of adversity this season. I mean, it started out, week 2, you lose your franchise quarterback for the season. Then Mason goes down for a little bit as well. But for those guys that have been able to rally back, win 3 games and when you think about it, one of them on the road, granted, it was still a home game for those guys out there on the West Coast, but they're still finding ways to stack those W's. And ultimately, the confidence that you play with when you put together 1, 2, now 3 wins, it just continues to help you out, and ultimately it's going to help this team in the long run.
All right, Prisuta, I will direct you first. In terms of the Steelers' offense yesterday at Heinz Field, I think everyone will agree there were some highs, there were some lows. They got the job done, but in terms of the offense, what do you need to see fixed as they move forward into the second half of the season?
A bunch of stuff. I think you look at the way it's trending. Third down has been an issue. Red zone has been an issue. Goal line has been an issue. They got to find a way to score more points. That is the object of the offensive exercise, and I think Mason Rudolph, to me, is kind of fluctuating back and forth between attempting to make plays and attempting to protect the ball. And I know he's being coached not to turn it over, but he's also, I think, got to step out of his comfort zone a little more than he has. If you listen to Randy Fichtner, the offensive coordinator, over the weeks, coming out of the San Francisco game a while back, Fichtner's line was, you got to attempt to throw the ball. Then his line after the Miami game, particularly after the second quarter, Mason Rudolph made an excellent third down conversion when they were backed up, and that seemed to really get him on a roll. Fichtner said that's playing the position. I think the Colts game was a little bit in between. He made some plays, but I think he passed up some throws. When Jalen Samuels catches 13 passes, to me, that means you're throwing it in flat too much. That doesn't mean he's a great receiving running back. It means you're checking it down with a little too much regularity and playing it a little too safe. But hey, what do I like about the offense? Room for improvement.
I'm actually going to disagree with him, because when you looked at all the checkdowns that he actually threw, when you go back and watch it on tape, he really didn't have anything downfield. In fact, I would think that there's a bigger issue. You go to the fourth quarter, the sack that he had just before one of the last drives they had. They missed the blitz. The running back misses the blitz. Samuels didn't pick him up, so he should have done that. He does that, it's probably a touchdown. Mason's ready to pull the trigger. The checkdowns that he did throw, I'm telling you, that's the only thing that he had. And I will tell you this, people go, what makes Tom Brady so great? Tom Brady's going to execute the play. And what I've seen Mason Rudolph do is execute the plays. When there's shots there, he takes the shots. when he checks it down a lot, I think people think he's doing that without taking a shot down the field, and that's not true. I mean, he didn't have, I know he checked it down like 3 or 4 times in a row, and I'm telling you, he had nobody open down the field.
Well,
and
I know
that's what you want to do.
There was a 3rd and 14 from the 17-yard line, and he checked it down, and I know Juju thought he was open because of the way he reacted after the
What
play.
receiver do you know that doesn't say I'm open?
But I'm also going to take it back to the Miami game. If Juju is covered one-on-one, to me, he's open.
Well,
I want to see him get a chance to make a spectacular catch because I think that guy can do spectacular things for you, but you got to give him an up. Arthur's nodding his head. He's agreeing with me. He knows how hard these guys are to cover and what can happen when you put it out there.
Mason throws and gives him an opportunity early in the game. What happens? Hits him right in the hands, and it's his first pick. I mean, so he gave him chances to make shots. I'm just telling you. Listen, from a decision-making process, when you see those checkdowns, I have not seen one other than the 49er game, which you referred to, where he didn't take the shot. That's not happening now. I mean, when he checks it down, I'm going to tell you this, I've yet to see it where he shouldn't have went down the field, that he did the right thing by checking it down.
All right, Arthur, you're nodding a little bit. I'm not sure who you agree with, so tell me what you need to see improve.
So for me, I understand both sides of it. The check down, absolutely, if it's the safe throw, you make that. But I also understand when a star receiver like Juju is one-on-one, I'm a believer in if that's AB out there, you're throwing it up to him, right? You want to go see your best receiver go make that play. So that's kind of how I look at it when in terms of Juju. If it's a one-on-one, I view him as open. So that's kind of why I say, okay, I can hear what Mike's saying. I can also hear what Merril is saying in that regard.
Anything else in terms of the offense that you guys want to see, especially in the second half, improve, knowing that in terms of the run game, they did not have James Conner on Sunday?
Yeah, well, listen, that's their linchpin. I don't care who the runner is. I will promise you this. Why are the Ravens so dangerous? Why are they going to have a chance to win each and every Sunday? It is really their ability to run the football and control the tempo of the game. That is why they have a shot. If the Steelers do that and complement what they've been doing in the running game, the way their defense is coming around, they're a dangerous football team. But that running game is going to have to be a little more consistent than it was actually against the Colts. If you're going to make a good run, it's really got to be the thing that you lean on.
I did like that Trey Edmonds got in there. I think he's impressed me since he's been here as an NFL caliber back. I think there are more NFL caliber backs out there in the world than there are jobs. But I think it's going to do him a world of good to get the carries that he did and have the success that he had. I think he messed up one down near the goal line. But just to get kind of reintroduced to carrying the ball in an NFL game, if they got to go to him again without James Conner down the road, he'll be a little bit better prepared. But, yeah, James Conner, if you look at prior to this Colts game, when James Conner went over 100 yards from scrimmage running and throwing, they won. And when he didn't, they lost. So, yeah, I agree with Merril. He is going to be the linchpin of the offense the way it is constructed now. But I like this kid, Edmonds. I thought he brought the energy and it brought the aggression. And when he screwed up going forward hard.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to talk much more about the Steelers' win over the Colts coming up here on the Steelers Roundtable. Up next, Merril heads to the telestrator. We'll be right back.
It's good to be 500 at the turn like we talked about early in the week, given where we've come from. It's going to still be a while. We'll work forever trying to get that September stench off of us, but that's life in this thing, and I appreciate the effort and the fight. It's good to be sitting at 4-4. I never thought I'd hear myself say that.
We're just still not where we want to be, obviously. We got to focus on, getting it. Obviously, we got in the red zone a few times and punching those in for 6, opposed to just coming away with 3. But we're right there, close, man. I think this group has done a great job of gelling together in those situations and moving the ball on the field. Obviously, coming away with 3 is a lot different than coming away with 7. So that's an ongoing effort, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
All right, welcome back to the Steelers Roundtable, everyone. When Merril is in town, we force him to come to the telestrator. No, I'm kidding. He enjoys it. Talking about Mason Rudolph, not his stats, but the contact that he likes to take, and that not flinching is something you noticed in this game.
Yeah, well, I've noticed it ever since he started playing. The one thing, when he has traffic around him, he doesn't blink. And I will tell you this, there is nothing more that his teammates will respect than the play I'm about to show you. Now, it's a 2nd and 1, too, but this play really stood out to me for a couple reasons. I think it's a great example of how he doesn't flinch, and that's important because there's always going to be pressure on you. And oftentimes, you have free defenders, and how do you handle that? Now listen, it's 2nd and 1. I get all of that, but I want you to watch this. I mean, You got this guy coming full speed, untouched. The reason he's got to wait for a little bit because he's got to wait for the slant route, but he stands there, he takes the shot, and he completes the pass. I mean, when you do those type of things from a quarterback's perspective, players respect that, and he has done that. I don't care how dirty the pocket is, he completes passes. But the other element of this that I found impressive is really from the Colt perspective. I'm on this panel, the Way to Play program, and it's about watching players play the game right. And if you watch how Benugo, number 52,
yes, you got it,
the free defender off here, the way he hits Mason Rudolph, I mean, you can't ask for a more professional, clean, technical hit. The way he attacks him, and keep in mind, he's a free defender. I mean, how many times do we see on TV where they lead and launch? And that's not how players play. I mean, look at that. He turns his head to the side. He brings his arms. He's performing the art of a tackle. And look at the area where he hits him. I mean, it's right around the chest, hip area is where you're supposed to target. That's exactly what a pro should do and how a pro should hit it. This is the play that I actually put up for the Way to Play program that we select a player every week. We give them $2,500 to get a letter from the commissioner on way to play the game. 99% of our athletes in the NFL are playing like that. But that should be a great example for every pro, anybody in college, anybody in high school, anybody in youth football. That's how you play the game. It's a cleaner way, and like Chuck Noll used to always say, if you play the game like that, you're a better, safer player. So Mason and his ability to handle the pocket, to me, has been an impressive thing. If you don't have that aspect of it, it's hard to continue to grow in this league and be developed as a quarterback. He has that. He does not blink. In fact, there's times I'm like, I might even blink on that one.
Yeah.
Doesn't faze him. And that just gives him an opportunity to keep growing as a quarterback.
All right, Mason Rudolph thanks number 52 as well.
He does.
All right, we have much more coming up here on the Steelers Roundtable. We will rejoin the other guys and open our time capsules right after this break.
Trey is a one-cut, downhill type of a guy, man, and obviously Jalen is good out of the backfield. It was a nice division of labor. Simply Edmonds replaced Connor in a lot of ways in terms of the things that they specialize in doing, but we did what we needed to do given this current circumstances this week. It's not reflective of how we move forward. We'll see what our mix of guys are next week positionally, whether it's running back or any other position, and build our personality and plan accordingly.
A lot of roar in his eye. You know, it's great to be on the other side of a player like that. Then Tuesday draws a lot of attention too. So, you know, I thought I was gonna get a lot of one-on-ones the whole season, but you know, it didn't work like that. So whenever time we get one-on-ones, I try to create habits.
I mean, you just have feelings when you're playing. It seems like every week for me and Bud and this whole defense, we all just have feelings. It's gonna be a great day, and we're just trying to affect the game any way that we can. And if they chip me, Bud's gonna be open. If they chip Bud, I'm gonna be open. So I think it's just awesome to be a part of right now.
5 sacks for the Steelers defense on Sunday versus the Colts. 3.5 came from those two guys, TJ Watt and Bud DUPREE. Time to talk a little defense. And Moats, since you didn't get shut out of the first segment, but maybe our newcomer came on a little strong. We will let you start.
What am I here for? To look good? There we go.
Well, you do look good, Prisuta. Anyways, back to the defense. What is something you take away from the performance against the Colts that you would like to see worked on?
Well, something that I would like to see worked on is their, I guess, when they're not making these splash plays, the Minkah Fitzpatrick interception, right? That was a splash play, but think about how it happened. Those Colts offense were driving down the field consistently throughout a large portion of the game. I want to see them have less of that happening. I understand you get the sacks, that's fun. I understand you get an occasional tackle for a loss, that's fun. And like you said, the turnover, it wipes away all the negative that transpired on that drive, and it makes you feel so much better about the performance. But it's so many little things that are transpiring that are helping them extend drives, that are helping opposing offenses gain yardage that shouldn't be out there.
And I think, you know, to build on that, the area that they're struggling with, when you say secondary, your pass defense, and people think it's just two corners and safeties. Your linebackers are a critical component of that. And they have struggled from day one, and they still struggle with bunch formations. And anytime, like, 3 guys come together and they disperse, you know, Bush is still struggling. Really, all their linebackers are struggling identifying who their guys are. People are isolating him one-on-one. They're winning there. But it's that combination that's going to be a problem. Everybody will see that on tape, and they're going to put something like that in. because the Steelers have not handled it. So their secondary, and I mean their linebacker area, really has to get better at communicating and identifying who's got who when we got two guys stacked together and we motion the third guy in there. Who's responsible for who based on our releases, because they blew a lot of them in the game against the Colts.
Do you think any of that's attributable to how many different guys they're using? You know, we see that 3 linebacker look sometimes, whether it's to stop the run or stop the pass. We see 55 and 26 when it's 2. We see 98 and 26, 98 and 55. Sometimes 28's in, sometimes 20's in. I understand what they're doing, you know, trying to get the best guys on the field at the best possible time, but it seems like the continuity maybe isn't quite what it might be if they would settle in on a line. But I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying I understand why maybe it's taking a little time to communicate.
Yeah, okay, Mike, okay, to me those would be, if a player came in to me and said that, I'd say you're giving me excuses because I'm giving you enough reps and you know what, you got your playbook and you got tape. I need you to know what you're doing if I'm going to put you out there. But what you're telling me is you can't, so I'm not going to put you out there. So that's just an excuse. What I'm saying is when I watched the Colt game, the guys that were making the mistakes were the same guys. So you got when 55 and 26 keep talking to each other and there's a guy running free and they just got a first down or 20 yards and it keeps happening, that becomes a problem. So that has to get cleaned up. That's a communication aspect, and they're struggling with the releases. You know, well, I thought you had the flat, and I thought, you know, we both took the flat. That is a communication thing and a learning thing. It's not a physical thing that has to be and can be cleaned up.
And I agree with you on that, man. When you talk about young players in this league, that is something that you struggle with as a defender. I remember early in my career, the communication of when 2 and 3, where they're aligned at, if they're splitting right now, is it before 5 yards? Is it at the 5-yard mark? Is it after 5 yards? Because all 3 of those things are going to dictate how you play a coverage on a certain call. So if you're young and you're out there with different guys, everybody views it differently. What you view is at 5 yards and what I view as at 5 yards can be different depending on where you are on the field and you're comfortable with one another as well.
I think the key with that whole thing, that's something you can learn and it can be cleaned up. That isn't like, you know, I'm asking you to cover something and you just can't do it.
Right.
I mean, they have the ability. You know, Bush is a young guy, he's going to be dynamic covering guys. Number one rule for a linebacker, don't get beat inside.
Yes.
What's the first thing an offensive guy's trying to do? Beat you inside. So you can't play over the top and give it to him. But he can learn all those things. You just got to speed up that learning a little bit because people are going to target you, keep targeting you.
All right, I don't know if we want to do this, but we are going to look at our time capsules. These were our predictions heading into the Colts game, so go here. All right, Prisuta, you were first. Ooh. Jacoby Brissett will decide the game with his pocket awareness and his legs.
Well, he decided it already.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty good.
You got there.
Just should have thrown in their injury.
It's incomplete because he didn't play, right? No, what I was concerned about, I didn't see the Steelers do a great job against Russell Wilson late in that Seattle game when everybody knew he was going to run the ball and try to kill the clock and they couldn't stop it. And I didn't see him do a great job against Lamar Jackson. Not a lot of people have so far this year, but I've become a big Jacoby Brissett fan this year watching him play, and I did not think it helped the Colts' cause that he got knocked out. But I guess we'll never know if he would have controlled the game or not. But hats off to the Steelers for attacking the pocket, whether he was in there or not. 2 things you did not see the Colts do all season very often was get sacked and turn it over, and you saw both of that stuff in bunches on Sunday.
All right, Merril, yours was the DBs will have their best game of the year.
Technically, that pick 6. As soon as I saw that,
Winner, chicken dinner, yeah.
Second longest in regular season franchise history.
Now, as soon as I saw that, I gave my championship pose. I was like, yes. And then I went back and watched the tape, and I'm like, what was he doing? I mean, he threw, it was cover 3. You have a safety sitting in the middle of the field. Now, that's even though he's the backup, he's a seasoned quarterback. He's seen a few things.
Sure.
You don't throw the
50,
seam route.
ball, trying to make a play.
You don't throw the seam route. I'm glad he did, but I got to go to, you know, we talked about the linebackers' struggles. That's part of the secondary, so they didn't have their best game. That was a pivotal play. That's a minimum 10-point swing right there.
Take the W. You got the
I'm going to take it.
6.
But I got to be honest, too. I'm like, when I looked at it, I was like, I thought it was some fantastic coverage. I'm like, what is Brian Hoyer doing throwing the ball? Did he not see him standing right there going, I'm like, good for the Steelers.
Yeah, we'll take it.
He is a difference maker.
All right, mine was absolutely horrible. I said that Juju and Deontay will continue to play Batman and Robin again.
Oh, maybe they did.
Well, I know I was like still going off this Halloween
was saying
theme when
they
I
really
made it, and obviously not the game for those two guys.
Got to throw him the ball, though, right?
Yeah, I knew
story.
Prisuta, that was going to get you riled up.
of.
All right. Yeah, let's get to Arthur Moats' time capsule. Mason Rudolph will pass for over 300 yards.
Yeah, so at the time, you know, I'm saying he had a really good second half versus the Dolphins. His confidence is up. And, of course, I'm like, hey, this Colts defense, granted they had some injuries at the time. Malik Hooker, it wasn't confirmed if he was going to be playing or not, so I felt really confident. He was efficient. He was very efficient. We could throw that out there. And, I mean, if you were rounding, you could, like, just almost there.
Hey, listen, his first interception was not on him.
Correct.
You know, it's the kind of throw you want to make, and, you know, you talked about, I mean, those are plays like Juju has to make.
Very true.
You know, that's why you're throwing it to him. You trust him. Could it be a little better throw? Absolutely. But if it's going to hit you, if
it hits you in the
you're
hands,
two
you gotta
hands
catch it, period.
in that environment, that's the play you got to come up with. Your quarterback's got to trust that he can put it there.
I was with you. I thought he played very well in the second half against Miami, and I was expecting him to build on that. And I don't know if he quite got there.
Yeah. But he still got the job done. It was a W, and that's all that matters. So,
And maybe we'll
that
get better
counts
at
as
the
like,
time capsules next
It's like
week.
a half a win for me. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for joining us today on the
That's it.
Steelers Roundtable. Yes,
You
that's
came all the way down here for that.
for Mike, Merril, and Arthur. I'm Missy. Thanks for joining us. Coach Tomlin's press conference tomorrow at noon. Steelers Live coming your way tomorrow at 4 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.